Let's go to Stephen Kinnock, Labour MP and member of the Exiting the EU Committee. Good morning, Stephen Kinnock.
Hello, good morning, Matt. Hi.
I don't know if you just heard John Bruton there saying that he now, the former Prime Minister of Ireland, the former Taoiseach, expecting there to be a no-deal Brexit. He cannot see a compromise between the two sides and therefore a return of a hard border on the island of Ireland with all the consequences that will carry, including in his idea, it'll hasten eventually the unification of the island of Ireland.
I agree that if we end up with a no-deal Brexit, the chances of a border poll and a reunification of Ireland they definitely increase. But we have to, those of us who believe in the union, but also believe in protecting the jobs and livelihoods of our constituents, we have to make sure that no deal doesn't happen. We voted on this, of course, the Spellman-Dromey amendment, which went through the House, made it absolutely clear we will not allow it to happen. So whatever the Prime Minister is thinking in terms of bullying and intimidating Parliament, we're not going to let that happen. And it's time now. One of the things you get in a hung Parliament, as the previous caller was saying, is, of course, it becomes a backbenchers Parliament. And it's time now for backbenchers to stand up and be counted.
I also asked him about whether the whole of Europe, including Ireland here, is dealing with the issue of English nationalism, as one caller pointed out. Actually, it's Wales also voted for Brexit, as you know better than anyone else. But I mean, this idea that we are all trying to deal with what is essentially an English question, although it's become a Welsh one too.
Well, it's definitely about identity politics, and what you saw in the referendum campaign was this concept of national identity taking this front seat ahead of considerations about the economy and all the sort of drivers that we used to think about in our democratic processes. So identity politics can be very positive if we harness it to get people to think about, the community and what we owe to each other and the ties that bind us together. But it can be very negative and destructive if you allow it to be about exclusion and being, me against you, me against the other. So that's what we have to do, is rebuild a new kind of politics. And I think if we can get through Brexit in what I believe is the right way, which is the Norway plus option, we can begin to reunite our deeply divided country.
But also reunite those deeply divided parties, including your own. Isn't the fact that Europe and Brexit have driven a stake through the heart of both the Tory party but also the Labour Party, beyond the divisions between left and right, between collective and individual, there is now this fundamental existential division over Europe, and the current party political system cannot deal with it, which is why some people are talking about another party, a centrist party being formed, including you possibly as one of its members.
Well, I believe that the Labour Party is the greatest force for good in the history of British politics, and we've done so much to change this country for the better. It would be a travesty and a tragedy if we were to break apart, and I'm certainly not part of any of those discussions. I think what we have to do...
You've been mentioned in those dispatches, though.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, my name was mentioned as being apparently part of those meetings that took place in some farmhouse in Sussex. I've never been there in my life. I had absolutely no idea what that was all about. So why my name appeared in that, I've got absolutely no idea. Fortunately, I got the Daily Mail to publish an apology for that. So,
okay.
That was a one-up for me. But I think, in essence, we've got to get through the massive challenges we have now, some of which is actually more about getting the technical and institutional arrangements right. Then we need to address the causes of why so many people felt so left behind that they voted for Brexit, and we need a Labour government to be able to do that.
But if we end up with a hard Brexit, if we end up leaving without a deal in 48 days' time from now, and if this does cause the economic repercussions that many people in this country, influential people who seem to know about the economy, are predicting, only time will tell whether they're right or not, but let's just take these serious predictions at face value, then the Labour Party, the Labour leadership, will be blamed for becoming the midwife of a Brexit that, the majority of the country probably didn't want. How will it survive that?
I actually think Jeremy's letter to Theresa May is a big step in the right direction, because what it says is we need a customs union and full single market alignment. I'd like him to go further and say this means membership of the European Economic Area, plugging in to the shared institutions, the agencies, everything that makes all of that work in practice. We'll get there, I think. We've got to change the political declaration, and it's therefore no longer a Tory Brexit. It is a version of Brexit that will deliver for the steel steelworks in my constituency, for the automotive workers in Nissan, for our entire manufacturing and services sectors. And that is not where Theresa May is headed. So we've got to get off that. She's sending us to the rocks, and we're crashing into those rocks at the moment. I think there's a way of us forcing her to change, because we've got a cross-party parliamentary majority. There are enough mainstream MPs on both sides of the House. We're working together, and it's time to reach out and build that consensus and compromise.
But for those 5 points that Jeremy Corbyn made in his letter to be accepted by enough Tory MPs rather, in Theresa May's party means splitting her party. And we now know one thing, and that is that she, under no circumstances, would consider the splitting of her own party.
Well, the fact is that we've potentially got here a backbenchers parliament, and what is clear is there is no majority in the House for leaving the EU with no deal. The question is, will those Tory MPs who have said they will not allow us to leave with no deal, will they stand up and be counted and say, yes, this will have a divisive effect on our own party, but it's time now to put the country before party. We've got to think of the national interest. We've got to think of the jobs and livelihoods of our constituents, and we've got to find a way out of this political and constitutional crisis. And that's going to require courage. It's going to require those Conservative MPs to look in the mirror and decide why they've been elected to Parliament. And, I'm not saying that's easy, but it has to be done.
Have you now given up on a second referendum?
Yeah, I've never campaigned for a second referendum. I believe that we've got to get through this through our parliamentary democracy. I believe passionately in parliamentary democracy. It's up to us as MPs to get this problem sorted. And I also have never understood what the question on the ballot paper should be, because I certainly won't facilitate any process that has no deal on the ballot paper, because that would be playing Russian roulette with the jobs and livelihoods of my constituents.
Okay, just one more question. This is about Luciana Berger, the Liverpool Wavertree MP. Now, she has been accused of being a disruptive Zionist by some members in her own constituency party. They called a no-confidence motion on her for a variety of reasons, ostensibly because she was against the policies of the party leader, Jeremy Corbyn. They have now withdrawn that no-confidence motion under some pressure, including from the Deputy Party leader Tom Watson. This is a terrible mess that the Labour Party finds itself in yet again over the issue of anti-Semitism.
I think it's awful. Luciana is a talented, hard-working, highly effective MP. The work she's done on mental health issues, the work she's done campaigning against the scourge of anti-Semitism has been second to none. I've got huge respect for her. I think that we've got to stop this internecine warfare. Certain constituency Labour parties have tipped over now into bullying and victimisation, and it's completely wrong. I'm very
But we've been talking about anti-Semitism now for a year in the Labour Party, and the issue seems to be getting worse. So what needs to happen? What does Jenny Formby, the party's General Secretary, need to do in order to stop this thing from happening?
She needs to come to the PLP on Monday and give us a complete and transparent report of how many cases are still outstanding, what have they done in the last 6 to 12 months to actually resolve those cases, is there clear evidence of real action being taken against the appalling people who are hurling this anti-Semitic abuse around. They've got to be rooted out of the party. There is no place for them. It has to be completely eradicated. But we need the facts, we need the data. We have, of course, passed a motion in the PLP asking her to come on Monday and give us that report. I think it's vitally important that she comes.
Okay, but here you've got John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, saying that Luciana has been associated with a breakaway party, and the media has asked her to deny it, as well as party members. She hasn't been clear in that. So he was saying to Luciana over the airwaves the other day, essentially, you have to make your peace with Jeremy Corbyn. This isn't just about anti-Semitism, and if you do so, then the issue will go away. I mean, that's outrageous, isn't it?
Look, I don't think that there's any truth in all these rumours about breakaway parties. I think it's something.
But the fact that he didn't, but the fact that he went beyond the issue of anti-Semitism and basically said the ball is in your court, Luciana Berger. You have to make peace with Jeremy Corbyn, and the attacks will go away. Many people find that outrageous.
I think that the most important thing to do now is to make sure that bullying of Luciana stops in her CLP. I think that our entire front bench, including John, should show full solidarity with Luciana, because it's clearly a deeply unpleasant stuff that's happening there. We need to get that out of the way. And of course, it's going to be up to Luciana to clarify her position, but I don't see any solid or concrete evidence of this breakaway party. She, of course, the problem is, everybody says, oh, no smoke without fire, and because she hasn't denied it. But once you start to hurl these accusations around, it's very difficult for people to walk away from them. So I think we just need to make it absolutely clear she is a valued and outstanding member of parliament. She represents her constituents. There are many thousand more of her constituents who voted for her than there are members of her constituency Labour Party. Let's get back to the democratic principles of this.
And in 10 seconds, Stephen Kinnock, should the CLP in Liverpool Wavertree be suspended, as some people have called for, because of what they've tried to do with Luciana Berger?
I think there's clearly a case for looking at that, a full investigation into what's going on there. And if there's clear evidence of bullying and victimisation of the MP or any other member of that CLP, then yes, that would be the evidence that we need to suspend any CLP anywhere in the country, regardless of what's going on.
OK, Stephen Kinnock, Labour MP there and member of the Exiting the EU Committee. Thank you very much indeed for coming on.